3 weeks ago, Evelyn Monroe, my mother, was arrested after a suspicious baby bottle nearly changed our lives forever. I thought she was the kind of mom who rescued others. I was wrong. She is now under psychiatric evaluation, and I'm left with the image of my baby brother smiling at the woman who almost ended his life. The paper crane from Una remains on my desk, a silent sentinel. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. I was 14 when Evelyn brought Una into our home, saying she just needed help. Una's silence was constant, her eyes too tired for a girl our age. I once asked why her bedroom door had a lock on the outside. Evelyn said it was to keep her safe. I believed her. At night, I heard Una humming lullabies through the vents. I thought it was sweet. Only years later did I realize she was singing to soothe the baby Evelyn had isolated. Una once had bruises she claimed came from tripping, but I'd seen Evelyn grab her arm the day before. I remember asking Mom if Una could come to my birthday. She said Una needed quiet time, and made her stay in the room. Later, Una gave me a folded paper crane through the vent. "For luck," she whispered. I thought she was weird. Ow, I see it was a message, a warning from someone already caged. It started with a lie Evelyn told my dad that Una had stolen from us. I overheard her telling Mrs. Chen that Una was mentally unstable. I checked old text messages and found nothing but kindness from Una. That night, I found a blue paper crane inside my baby brother's crib. My hands shook. Ma said it might be a signal. That's when I started documenting everything: phone logs, surveillance clips, voice memos. The image of that crane haunted me. During a pediatric checkup, the doctor asked if my baby brother was being over-medicated. Evelyn smiled too quickly. I dug through our bathroom cabinet and found unfamiliar pill bottles labeled with my brother's name. Maya helped me photograph everything. Evelyn caught me once and slammed the door shut, yelling about privacy. That night, I moved my brother's crib into my room. I stopped sleeping. Each breath he took felt borrowed. Every smile from Evelyn now made my stomach twist. Evelyn insisted on preparing whole meals. One night, she brought a bottle with a strange gray hue. I switched it out when she wasn't looking, and sent it to Una for testing. She knew someone who could help. Evelyn noticed the switch, and threw a glass across the room. "Don't undermine me," she snapped. Mrs. Chen later slipped me a note. I heard her screaming, "Call me." I knew I wasn't imagining things. The network was forming quietly, but it was real. When Evelyn left the house for a doctor's appointment, I searched her closet. Behind the shoeboxes, I found a sealed envelope marked, "Daniel, do not open." Inside were old medical reports, custody documents, and a journal filled with obsessive notes about removing negative influences. I scanned every page. Una sent a voice message. That phrase, "It's what she told my mom too." The coincidences were building into a pattern. This wasn't just paranoia, it was planned, meticulous, and more dangerous than I'd feared. The moment came fast. Evelyn stood in the kitchen holding a baby bottle. "It's just chamomile," she said. But I saw the cloudy tint again. I stepped between her and my brother. Dad walked in and froze. Maya burst through the back door, phone in hand, yelling, "We called." Evelyn's eyes went wild. The bottle dropped, shattering. Police sirens echoed down the street. She reached for the drawer. I shouted no. My body trembled, but I didn't move. I wouldn't let her touch him. Evelyn grabbed a knife, but Dad tackled her before she could get close. Maya scooped up my brother and bolted. I wrestled the knife from Mom's hand, cutting my palm. She screamed curses, her voice guttural and broken. Officers stormed in, pinning her down. Mrs. Chen stood outside, filming the entire scene. I clutched my brother as tightly as I could, tears mixing with blood. The blue paper crane lay beside the spilled formula, our silent proof that we'd been right to act. At the police station, I played every recording, showed every photo. Evelyn sat in silence, refusing to look at me. Dad gave his statement with shaking hands. Mrs. Chen handed over her video. Mai comforted my brother in the waiting room. The officers exchanged glances. It wasn't just a domestic dispute, it was a criminal case. I held the paper crane, its wings damp with formula. For the first time, they listened. The truth was no longer mine alone to carry. That night, I couldn't sleep. I watched my baby brother breathe in peaceful rhythm. Maya stayed over, her arms bruised from a struggle. Dad sat in the hallway, eyes vacant. I replayed Evelyn's screams in my head, raw, desperate. The house was quiet, but not calm. The paper crane now sat on the nightstand, and slightly from the fall it was over. But the weight hadn't lifted. We'd survived her. But surviving didn't mean forgetting. It only meant we had to stay vigilant. I thought Evelyn snapped from stress, but the investigation uncovered something darker. Una's old therapist reached out after seeing the news. He'd documented a pattern of emotional control, fabricated illnesses, and isolation strategies Evelyn used on Una. Her behavior wasn't spontaneous, it was systemic. The paper cranes, Una said she folded one every time she felt unsafe. My brother's crib had 3. I realized Evelyn hadn't just lost control, she'd orchestrated it. She was always the one pulling every string. Una's mother came forward. Years ago, Evelyn pressured her to sign temporary custody papers just for stability. Those documents never expired. Una had been trapped. Evelyn received monthly checks from a program for displaced minors, money she hid in an account under my name. I found the statements in a storage bin, buried beneath baby blankets. She hadn't just manipulated trust, she used me as a shield. My name was her front. My love had been weaponized. The betrayal cut even deeper. We discovered a burner phone tucked inside Evelyn's sewing kit. Text to someone named D discussed custody loopholes, medications, and even falsifying symptoms. Maya and I forwarded everything to Detective Lin. One message told me, "If R starts asking questions, blame Una again." I dropped the phone. Every time I doubted Una, Evelyn had planted it. The cranes weren't just symbols, they were countermeasures. Una had been fighting back all along, in silence, with paper and courage. I never saw it. Detective Lin traced D to Daniel Monroe, my father. But it wasn't collusion. The texts were from when they were divorcing. 5 years ago, Evelyn had cloned his number to make it seem like a partnership. The judge dismissed it, but the doubt lingered. Dad's devastation was real. He hadn't known about the account, the pills, or the letters. Evelyn had made us mistrust even each other. The house felt poisoned, yet the truth, bitter and jagged, was finally visible. Court records revealed Evelyn had attempted to foster a different infant 10 years earlier, but the baby died under ambiguous medical circumstances. The file was sealed. A former neighbor reached out anonymously. Recalling late-night screams and ambulance lights, my stomach turned. Evelyn wasn't new to this. She had patterns, and we'd barely escaped becoming one. I held my baby brother as he napped, kissed his forehead, and swore never again. We weren't just survivors. We were her witnesses, and we would speak. We found surveillance footage from Mrs. Chen's camera facing our driveway. One clip showed Evelyn slipping something into a bottle before waving to me sweetly. It wasn't grainy, it was crystal clear. The timestamp matched the day of my brother's seizure scare. Detective Lynn added it to the file. I stared at the screen, numb. That smile had fooled me for years. I forwarded it to Una. Her reply, I'm so sorry. You never deserved this. None of us did. A medical toxicologist finally confirmed that Evelyn had been microdosed sedatives not prescribed to any family member. The levels wouldn't kill outright, but they'd weaken, confuse, and mimic natural illness. It explained the fevers, the vomiting, the hospital trips. My baby brother wasn't fragile, he was drugged. I broke down sobbing in a hallway outside the clinic. Maya held my hand. We're saving him, she whispered. I clutched the blue crane in my pocket. It wasn't over. But now, we had proof. Una flew in for the first hearing. She walked into the courtroom with a stack of journals and a folder labeled Crane Project. Inside were records, every incident. Every sign, every pattern she's documented since age 13. The judge flipped through stunned. Evelyn sat restrained, unmoved. I testified next. My voice shook but didn't crack. The blue crane rested on the table beside me. When I looked at Una, I finally understood this wasn't just our survival, it was our reckoning. The prosecution unveiled Evelyn's finances, offshore accounts, charity donations that looped back to her personal funds. She'd built an image of sainthood while laundering the system. My name was listed as co-signer on one of the shadow accounts. I froze. She used you as cover. The attorney said it, the jury murmured. I glanced at Maya, whose face was pale with fury. Even now, Evelyn sat with that same maternal smile. But now, it was unraveling. Thread by thread, lie by lie. The court psychiatrist revealed Evelyn's diagnosis as severe personality disorder with obsessive traits centered on control and martyrdom. She believed she was saving them, he said. The phrase echoed in my mind, saving them? From what? From us, from herself? Maya squeezed my hand. The judge requested a psychiatric facility instead of prison. Una whispered. At least she's contained now, I nodded. But the ache in my chest lingered. Contained didn't mean forgotten. And it didn't erase what she's done. After the trial, a social worker visited with a thick file. Anonymous complaints had been filed against Evelyn years ago. All dismissed. Most were from neighbors. One from a daycare employee. Each report followed a similar theme: isolation, over-medication, and extreme discipline. I flipped through, stunned. Why didn't anyone act? I asked. The worker shook her head. She knew how to hide it. That's when I realized Evelyn's greatest power wasn't manipulation. It was invisibility cloaked in the performance of perfection. I visited the house one last time with Maya. We boxed up baby clothes, journals, and the remaining cranes. In Evelyn's jewelry box, I found a faded photo, Una, age 5, holding a bottle with a wary smile. She's always had a type, Maya said softly. I placed the photo in the folder with the rest. We sealed the boxes. You okay? She asked. Not yet, I said. But I would be. This was our evidence, our history, and our ending. Weeks later, a podcast about familial abuse requested an interview. Una and I debated. Do we open this again? She asked. I looked at my brother sleeping safely, the blue crane on his shelf. We don't open it, I said. We hand it over. On air we spoke not about revenge, but warning signs, paper cranes, unexplained pills, shifting blame. The episode went viral. Survivors messaged us. For the first time, our pain had purpose. We weren't just telling a story, we were saving others. During a community safety meeting, Mrs. Chen stood up and shared her footage. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know how to help. She said others came forward, neighbors, teachers, even a pharmacist. Evelyn's mask had fooled everyone, but not forever. The town council passed new reporting protocols. A crane drawing became the symbol of the initiative. I watched my baby brother draw one in crayon. It was crooked, messy, perfect. His smile said, we're free now for good. One day, Maya handed me a small box. Inside was a necklace, silver, with a tiny paper crane charm. You were the one who listened, she said. I blinked back, tears. It wasn't about heroism. It was about refusing to stay quiet, about seeing the cracks and daring to ask why. I wore it to Una's college graduation. When she spotted it, she grinned. For the first time in years, our smiles weren't forged. They were real, earned, honest. That night, I tucked my brother in and whispered a lullaby, the same one Una once sang. He reached for the crane beside his bed, fingers curling around it. I sat on the floor, breathing in silence, not fear. Evelyn Monroe might never face full justice, but her grip on our lives was broken. We'd made it together. Paper cranes used to mean danger. No, they meant we saw the signs, we acted, and in that, we changed everything. After the trial, I stared at the blue crane for hours. Its creases held every moment we'd doubted, fought, and endured. I wasn't just Riley, the daughter, I was Riley, the protector. Maya called it the transformation. I didn't feel brave, but I felt changed. I walked my brother to daycare every morning. His laugh reminded me why I stayed, why I fought, and why I'll never stop watching for danger. Una visits once a month now. We don't talk about Evelyn much, but when we do, it's with clarity, not fear. We rebuild in small ways, making soup, watching childhood movies, folding cranes just because. We're healing, she says. I believe her. Our bond isn't trauma, it's survival stitched into something strong. My brother calls her Nuna. That word, once whispered through vents, now echoes through our laughter. We aren't haunted, we're whole. Some nights, I still check the locks 3 times, old habits linger. But instead of fear, I feel readiness. The crane necklace rests beside my bed. My brother snores softly across the room. I write notes for other survivors now, tips, checklists, reminders that intuition isn't paranoia, that silence can be a scream. We weren't crazy, we were careful, and now we're loud, we're careful, and we're never ever alone again. Evelyn remains in psychiatric care. Her evaluation's ongoing. She receives no visitors. I sent one letter, a single sentence, we're safe now. The paper crane drawing was enclosed. Maya framed it on our wall. My brother asks who made it. I just say, someone who taught us to see, because that's what Evelyn gave us in the end, clarity, and the fire to never ignore it again. Now, our home is filled with laughter and noise. Mrs. Chen visits often, bringing cookies and extra hugs. Una calls every Sunday. The paper crane sits on our bookshelf beside baby photos and court documents, a reminder, not a wound. We don't flinch at knocks anymore. We open the door, we make noise because fear lived in silence. And now, we live in truth. At my brother's kindergarten art show, he drew a giant bluebird. It's a hero, he told the class. I smiled, tears caught in my throat. That crane, his crane meant safety now. I hugged him tightly. He doesn't know the full story yet, but one day he will, and when he does, he'll know we didn't just survive. We changed the ending, together. Thanks for watching, hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.